Hey everybody, I'm Bryan Beck. This is our discussion for Aviation 360, our market analysis summary. So last week we talked about how beneficial it would be to utilize on-demand aviation for our business. And this week we're going to talk about some potential airframes that would make sense for us. So things to consider when you're buying an aircraft is going to be your speed, your range, your payload, and how much it's going to cost you. Not just how much it's going to cost to buy the airplane, but how much is it going to cost to keep up with it, to operate it, to fuel it, to maintain it. The speed obviously is an important factor because the whole point of this is making sure we can get from place to place more quickly to save time for the company and their executives. Okay, range plays right in with speed. If you have to make a fuel stop on the way to wherever you're going, then it's probably not going to equate to that much time savings. So we want to make sure we have the range that fits within our network on these aircraft. Payload. We spoke earlier that we want to be able to carry at least 4 executives on average. Most of the time it's probably just you, the COO, traveling, although if you want to bring 3 of your colleagues with you, we're going to consider how much weight and how many passengers an aircraft can carry. And lastly, we're going to look at cost. And this is more than just what does the airframe cost. Again, it's how much does it cost us per hour to operate, how much is it going to cost us per year to run, and what kind of utility are we going to see out of those dollars from that aircraft. So there's 2 different types of airplanes that we're going to look at today. There's turboprops, which is your propeller-driven, usually smaller, lighter aircraft, and then there's jets, small jets. So turboprops are usually more efficient, meaning they burn less fuel, although they typically carry less payload and they aren't as fast. Jets are higher performing airplanes. They are faster, they have more range, they usually can carry more payload. Of course, this depends on the model. They're typically better performing all around. Of course, this all comes at a higher cost. Okay, so some potential aircraft that we're looking at. So let's look at some turboprops first. Again, these are going to be the cheaper airframes and slower, for that matter. The first one we're looking at is the Piper M600. This is the smallest aircraft on the list. This is going to be a perfect traveler for the COO when he's by himself, maybe 1 or 2 candidates coming with him. Again, it's the slowest. It's going to ring in about 220 knots at a range of 1,400 miles, which will fit perfectly with our network. It's technically capable of carrying 4 passengers, maybe on a shorter flight, so we're not carrying as much fuel. 450 pounds of weight is what it's going to carry when we're at full fuel and flying our maximum range. Now that's going to start to become an issue when you want to carry 4 people in there. It's also got the smallest cabin of any of these aircraft that we're looking at today. So carrying 4 passengers on a long range flight might get tight. You might have to stop for fuel. But it's also the cheapest airframe we're looking at today, so it depends on what kind of budget we're looking at for spending with this. It's coming in about $2.9 million for a brand new aircraft. Okay, the next one is a little bit bigger. We're looking at the Pilatus PC-12. And this is a little bit quicker too. 257 knots is our average cruising speed at a range of 1,600 miles. And that's going to be able to take you just about anywhere within the network we were talking about earlier. And that range is factored in at a payload with 7 passengers and just over 1,000 pounds on board, which means you can very, very comfortably carry up to 4 people with you, and you could add more if needed. But this is obviously a more expensive airframe, just shy of $5 million. But it is bigger, it is faster, it's worth considering. Okay, the next one on our list, we're looking at 2 different jets. The Phenom 100 is going to be the smaller of the 2. Obviously, it's a lot faster than the turboprops we just looked at, just over 340 knots at about 1,100 miles of range. Now, this is, again, a 4-passenger airplane, so it's a much smaller cabin. And it's going to carry 650 pounds. So while it's a little bit smaller, it will actually carry 4 people and some baggage for an overnight to its maximum range. Now again, this is the smaller of the 2. It's going to be the cheapest, coming in just shy of $4.5 million. Lastly, we're looking at the Pilatus PC-24. And this is going to be the fastest, biggest, highest range aircraft we're looking at. This one, just shy of 370 knots. It's pretty quick. At a range of 2,000 miles, that's going to absolutely no problem take you anywhere you need to go within your network. It's going to carry 7 people on board, on top of the pilot, at 1,230 pounds of payload, and that's going to comfortably carry you and anyone you want to take with you around the country. And this is obviously the most expensive airplane we're looking at, $8.9 million. We can start to break down how much this is going to cost us to operate and to maintain. So again, this is factored mostly off the speed of these aircraft. Because some of these are slower than others, they're going to end up being used more than others. Your travel time is going to be higher with these slower aircraft. So for the M600, we're looking at 546 hours of use on the airframe. The PC-12, 467 hours. With the Phenom 100, the smaller of the two jets, we're looking at 350 hours. And the PC-24, 327 hours. The PC-24 is obviously the fastest aircraft we're looking at. It's going to use the least amount of operating hours out of all of them for our travels in the air. But this is just a breakdown of utility of these aircraft. We're talking about range, payload, speed, and cost in here. And you can see, if you look kind of roughly at this chart here, you'll notice that the orange and the yellow bars are going to provide the greatest utility for us. The orange bar being the Pilatus PC-12 and the yellow being the PC-24, the two larger of the four aircraft that we were looking at earlier. Now, the purchase price on these, obviously we talked about this already, with the PC-24 on the far right being the most expensive one we're looking at, and the PC-12 being the second most, two larger of the airframes. This is really, it really matters. This is where your dollars start to make sense. This is how much it's going to cost to operate this aircraft per year. Now, this is based on the average number of travel miles that we use for the company. With the M600, obviously the smaller turboprop is going to cost less per hour, even though we're going to be flying it more hours. That's going to hit us just shy of $280,000 a year just to maintain, to fly it, to fuel it, to operate it. The PC-12, $319,000. The Phenom 100 being a little bit more expensive per year, just shy of $400,000, and the PC-24 just over $500,000 a year. Looking at these charts, you'll see the greatest utility is going to come from the PC-12 and the PC-24. Even though they are the most expensive to operate per year, they're going to provide more opportunity to utilize on-demand aviation for us. And that's all I got. Thank you.